We have breaking news tonight. A federal trade court is blocking President Donald Trump from imposing sweeping tariffs on imports under emergency powers law.
The three-judge panel ruled Trump exceeded his authority when he imposed his tariffs. The ruling comes in response to a multi-state lawsuit led by Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield. Earlier this year, the president imposed tariffs on almost every country before pausing them just days later. Tariffs usually have to be approved by Congress, but the president used the emergency powers law to impose his tariffs.
Joining us now for more on the ruling is Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield. Thanks for coming on the program.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.
Your team argued the case before the court just last Wednesday. Did you expect this ruling to come this quickly?
You know, the one thing, we filed this court in the United States Court of International Trade, which is a specialty court, and they had been moving incredibly quickly in terms of getting a result. And so we had a feeling that they were going to continue in how quickly they were moving. Of course, this is an incredible order, striking down 4 different sets of tariffs under 4 different executive orders.
The president has argued that other countries have been taking advantage of the U.S. for years and that the tariffs would bring jobs and manufacturing back to the United States. What's your response to that argument?
Well, specifically, Congress is given the power to set tariffs, and they gave some of that power to the president, and they did that under Title 19, a real specific law with safeguards for our economy, because Congress knows that if you implement tariffs recklessly, that is going to impact our economy. There needs to be predictability for small businesses, frankly, for consumers. And when you don't do that, it's effectively a tax on all Americans. And what has happened here is the court said, yeah, you can do tariffs, just do them right. Do them under the law that we intended, Section 19. You cannot misuse an emergency power, and specifically the president did it under an emergency power because he knew that he wouldn't be able to do it under the law that Congress rightfully passed that gave him powers. In fact, just a reminder, no other president has ever used this emergency power for tariffs, and since the entire enactment of this law, every single president has used Title 19, not the emergency powers.
The administration could appeal the ruling. Where do you see this fight going forward now?
Yeah, the administration actually quickly filed notice of appeal, so this will be going up on appeal, and that'll go to a federal circuit, the federal circuit in Washington, D.C. And our lawyers and ourselves will be there to argue that case as it winds through the courts.
Oregon, of course, leading the 12 states in the lawsuit. Did that multi-state approach help in the case?
You know, I think it is incredibly compelling when we're able to come through and talk about the impacts to the state of Oregon, right? Not only just to the state in terms of like how much we buy, our purchasing power, the things that impacts our universities, but to our consumers. And I think the states being a part of that conversation was incredibly impactful, and also really illustrates how reckless the president has been in setting these tariffs. We've all felt that when you look at the economy. We've all felt that with the small businesses. And so I think it was very unique that you had a panel of 3 judges unanimously. And remember, 2 of those judges were appointed by Republican presidents. So it's a pretty telling decision that happened today.
Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
President Trump has said he wants to use the tariffs as a negotiating tool and that revenues brought in would help reduce federal budget deficits. After the ruling, a White House spokesperson said that trade deficits are a national emergency that has decimated American communities, left our workers behind, and weakened our defense industrial base, facts that the court did not dispute. The administration, he said, remains committed to using every letter of executive power to address this crisis and restore American greatness.